Here we go. Technology. It's supposed to be your friend, but it sometimes isn't. Hi, everyone. I'm Sinead Willihan. Today is July 24th, 2021, and we are here with a wonderful group of people who are going to be presenting at an exciting upcoming event called the Worldwide Metaphysical Tribe, which happens annually in Chicago, Illinois, rural Chicago, in a place called Franklin Grove. And my dear friend and Grant's dear friend, Grant is here as well, Deb Frew, is the octopus at the top of it all. She's amazing. She does the entire thing by herself every year, which is just, I've never seen anything like this. So she's here today, and I thought that I would just say hello to Grant first and then introduce Deb. And Deb, you can take it away and give an explanation of what this event really is, because I feel like I just can't do it justice. You do the most beautiful explanations of what it's all about. So Grant, hello, how are you today?
Thank you, Sinead. Thank you for helping to host this, and thank you to Deb for putting on the event in the great state of Illinois. And you and I will be traveling down there.
Yes, we will.
We're doing all our testing as we go through the borders and stuff like that. And I'm honored to meet the other speakers that are going to be speaking there, and we can chat about why people should be excited to be coming to this event.
Yes, yes, the conversation is something I'm very much looking forward to. There's so many fascinating topics, and the people here represent that. So Deb, maybe you can take it away and give us a little intro as to what the event is, and then I'll help you introduce each person here.
Sure, and maybe someone can mute. I hear noise in the background. I don't know.
The fire truck is coming.
Oh, gee. So my name is Deb Frew, and 8 years ago, living out here in rural Illinois, I decided that it was really hard to see all my psychic friends. I belonged to a really loose, great group of tuned in people, and I just couldn't see them enough. And living out where I live, you know, we don't get a lot of visitors out here. So I decided to have a bonfire and a dinner and just hanging out in my backyard. So that was the plan. Well, we did it, and it was incredible. Even though it was very low key, everyone had such a good time. They asked if I would do it again. And so I've been doing it every year. Try to hook it up with a Perseid meteor shower, although this year I'm not so sure we'll see anything because we're about a week too late. Thank you, COVID, for throwing wrenches at us of 1000% all the time, but we're still happening. So I want to tell you just a little bit about this year, because this year is our biggest, most amazing year. First of all, our event is held in what I can only call the Garden of Eden. Out here in the middle of nowhere in Illinois, there is a tiny town called Franklin Grove. It's so tiny it has no stoplight. And in this town, there is the most luxurious inn you have ever seen. And we have rented the whole thing for 3 days. So, well, for 3 nights, so 4 days. And I was just over there. This year they spent COVID just beautifying it to the nth degree. So first of all, we're going to meet in the most gorgeous setting ever. Second of all, it's the speakers. This year, I usually have one, maybe two speakers. This year we have 7 speakers. Not all represented today, unfortunately, because of course life is in the way, but I'm so excited to have Sinead and Grant talk to our speakers this year, because although there is a misconception that this year our theme is UFOs, it really isn't UFOs. It's consciousness. And how does consciousness interact with what we think is happening out there? So I'm so excited for the speakers because they're all coming at it from a different angle, and it's just my pleasure, my joy to do this every year. So those of you who can see the egg boxes behind me, this is sort of a tradition. The egg boxes hold the goodie bags that you'll be taking home. So
Thank you, Deb. I am looking forward to the goodies, but really it's just so much to look forward to already. You know, goodie bags or no, just the fact that there's going to be such incredible content, and the inn is absolutely stunning. The photographs are just making me drool. So let's introduce our speakers. I'm thinking that maybe we can go with Jeff Lurkey first. Jeff, I'm assuming I'm pronouncing your last name properly. It is Lurkey, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Wonderful. And would you like to give a
Yeah.
little introduction of who you are, what you're about, what you're going to be talking about this year? You've been in the community for quite some time already. Your presence online, you're known for some amazing content around orbs, but I thought that I would leave you to explain it as you would like to.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna, I guess at the event, kind of share a bit of my story and like maybe some experiences that led up to kind of where I'm at now. But as you said, I take images and video of different phenomena like Sendra mist, beams, rods, a lot of things that are kind of in between. I take the images and videos indoors, outdoors, different locations, and they're pretty cool. And I'm going to be showing 95% of them I'll be showing for the first time at this event. So pretty excited about that. But also I want to, like through my story also, hopefully, show others how they can, make their own kind of contact with the phenomena if they choose. And it should be very cool. And I'm excited.
And sorry, say that again. The last thing you just said, sorry.
It should be very cool, and I'm excited.
Yes, it should be very cool. It should be very cool indeed. And actually, I'm kind of hoping that the people that are here for this event will act as magnets, because a lot of us are doing energy work and have an understanding of how energy and consciousness and vibration are all a part of all these so-called different things that we're doing that are actually all interrelated. So
definitely
I'm looking forward to the sort of collective energy and the possibility that something may happen as a result of all of us being there together, right? I think that would be really quite something.
Can I jump in?
Yeah. So Jeff, what will you be speaking about exactly?
I guess different. Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. I'm just wondering if you're focusing on one specific story as an example, or, are you going to have one sort of pivotal point, or are you doing an overview?
I guess the pivotal point, I guess, in it is that really that anyone can make contact, and that there's ways to do it, and that it mostly involves being in a high state of love and positivity, and there's different things you can do to raise your energy to make contact. And I don't think there's necessarily anybody who's like specifically chosen. I think it's a path everyone maybe has, whether in this life or a next one. This path, I guess, of self-realization and, kind of the truth of things. And
Can I jump in with a question, Jeff?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you live in one of my favorite cities, Chicago.
Yeah.
And you're getting these photographs right into Chicago. You have a photographic background. So you're going to show you a lot of these photographs that you've taken. So you're going to bring your cameras along and people will actually see the stuff appear on your camera as you're photographing, because people will be doing sky watches and stuff like that, right? So you'll be able to show people, and I've seen your photographs there. We've done a couple of interviews. Whatever the phenomena you're capturing is pretty spectacular. People around the world are actually capturing it as well in Australia and Macedonia, and I've shown some of the photographs from around the world. But you seem to have some of the better ones, and so that's what I want to ask you about your photographic background, and are you bringing your cameras along to try to photograph and maybe show other people how you can produce these types of photographs, which I think Deb is actually getting as well.
Yeah, definitely. And in terms of gear, I just really use my iPhone for the most part. But I can definitely show people how to, I get the images and videos that I do. Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. And so, so you've taken how many photographs? I think I asked you before, but how many photographs have you taken? It's a huge number, right?
Oh gosh, it's like probably over 20,000 easily. Yeah, and I'll be showing like well over 300 or so images and video at the event. So
maybe at some point during this, you could take over the screen and just show us maybe 10 or 15 so people will know what we're looking at.
Right now.
Well, no, he can get them ready.
Off?
What he wants to do, and then we can do that later on so people can see.
Sure, yeah,
because
right
we're
now
talking about this, but it's a different thing to see Jeff's photographs. Then you go like, wow, it's like there's a big difference between describing them and
very
seeing
impactful for sure. I feel
Definitely.
like we should go on to introduce everyone else as well, though, before we get into too much depth and conversation. So I'm going to keep the conversation moving, and I'm actually going to take it back to Deb for a minute. Deb, you told me a really wonderful story about the first time you met, I think it was the first time you met Linda, and that there was a sort of special occurrence that happened there. And then that was the origin story of the two of you really connecting, and then Linda becoming a regular fixture in Metaphysical Tribe. So can one of you tell that story? Maybe Deb, you can tell it, and then Linda, you can jump in and give your experience of that moment, and then what your work has been like with Deb and what you'll be talking about this summer as well. I think I just planned it out. So Deb, can you tell us the story of how you met Linda? There was this amazing moment apparently that occurred.
Well, I teach tarot and other things at a place in the Chicago suburbs called Gathering Lighthouse. And because I'm, tied in with their mailing list and everything, I got an email that said that there was going to be a walk-in soul that was going to come and explain what happened, what the story was. And 40 years before that, I had read Ruth Montgomery's book, Walk-in Souls. And when I read it, I put it on the back burner. I mean, what do you think about things like this? How can you have proof of something like this actually happening? And so I grabbed my girlfriend and I said, we're going to go down and listen to this woman talk. And either it's going to be the most amazing thing we've ever heard, or we are going to be the most disappointed people on earth. And we drove down to see her. And Linda's story is so compelling. I could barely sit still. I couldn't believe what she was saying. And she speaks from her heart. You know that she went through this. And the proof is always, the proof of the pudding is always in the eating. And let's just say that when this all began transpiring, Linda did not recognize her own family members. So if that isn't proof positive that something happened, but she can tell you everything that was happening internally, spiritually, mentally, physically. What a story. So Linda, you go ahead and say what you'd like.
Yes, that's the perfect introduction. Linda, please take it from there.
And you're muted. You're muted, dear.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but yeah, I had the most mystifying experience, and that's what I will call it, because it was something very unusual. A walk-in soul, some people are aware of it, but it's a very few. It's been talked about in the dark, never too much in the light of day. And so it happened to me, and it is something that I hid from the public, and I even hid from myself. It was such an unusual experience, and I had never heard of anything of such until I really shared it with a friend of mine who's a doctor, and he's very astute with other cultures and spiritual practices. And he told me what happened to me while I was in the nursing home was called a walk-in soul. And then he began to explain to me how it occurs and all of the different variables that might impact me. In fact, he told me to begin to count my age from the day that the walk in occurred. So I talk about the walk in because after I publicly spoke about it, I began to understand that the masses had never heard of this. It was a different phenomena and it needed to be shared. People need to know because there were other walk ins that I had channeled. I had channeled information regarding other walk-ins all over this planet, and they were not aware of who they were. And they were hiding in the closet, but they would become light workers. So I wrote a book, and the title was Spiritual Phenomena and Walk-in Souls. And it was very important because there were so many changes that occurred to me, as Deb Frew stated, psychologically, physically, mentally, spiritually. My entirety shifted and it changed dramatically. I was no longer the human that I had been in the past. I have documented medical records like this. I was given up for dead, and I was told by the top neurologist in Illinois. There were a group of them, and they all informed me, also along with the University of Chicago and other hospitals in the Chicago area, as well as the Mayo Clinic, that I would never, ever walk again because I could not walk. But today, I can tell you, I run.
Wow. Wow, Linda, that is phenomenal. And you have such a wonderful presence, by the way. I'm just very happy to meet you, and I'm looking forward to meeting you in person. Can you, I want to hear more, but I think we should save it for the event. So can you give us a little history of your involvement with Metaphysical Tribe? Because my understanding is you've been going for a few years. You started years ago.
Yeah, actually, it's after I met Deb Frew at the Gathering Lighthouse, we developed a rapport and a relationship. And so when she had her event at her home, I attended, and we've just developed a wonderful relationship ever since. And I'm just so engaged in her organization, and I just love it. I even talk about her in my book.
Ah, that's fantastic.
Yes.
We have to give props when props are due, right? We have to give them.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yes. So I'm really, I think a lot of people are looking forward to hearing your story of your walk-in experience. I'm going to move on to the next person just to introduce them, and then we'll come back to you. Thank you so much, Linda, for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
And Tara McCallum, lovely Tara McCallum, who I know well because I've actually hired her to do energy work with me. She is an extraordinary body energy healer. That is not even the right term. What she does is something totally new, something that I don't think we've ever seen before in the healing community, in the energy healing community. So Tara, welcome today. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm hoping that you can give an explanation of what you do, if that's even possible, but because it's just so extraordinary and often not, something that it lives within the realm of words, right? Because of the energy and the vibration that's involved. But if you can just do your best to give us an explanation of what it is, or just describe what it's like for you to be in that role, helping people in this way, that would be wonderful.
Absolutely. And first of all, I want to say, I love your explanation, Deb, of what's happening at this event. The fact that we're expanding consciousness and then interacting with further consciousness, because that's the pocket that I love to live in, is in that space of possibility. And it really erases the whole fear level that I think anyone could possibly have about this. Like, we're really just sitting in the pocket of consciousness, which is expansive and brings in possibilities. So going back to the work that I do with the Muse method, it really goes to the Muse. And so I want to talk about why, like, Deb is actually the one who helped me with the name, the Muse method. And it was needed to go to this space where it really is an energy that we're contacting inside of each person. It's them, but it has its own voice that's been leading us since the beginning of our time. And most people are constantly looking at the places that they need to fix, right? Like all the dirt that happens, all the crap that happens, all the things that we need to heal. And everything that I do has nothing really to do with healing. It's about wholeness. It's about vibrancy, it's about vitality, and listening to the voice within that we're often silencing or hiding or putting in a corner. Beginning to allow that to come out, to trust it, and to watch what happens and what unfolds around us. Because when we get into that center space, everything around us starts to shift and resonate from that space. And for me, it's really all about results, right? Like, I love results for people. So not woo woo at all. Like, I want tangible, practical change. And so for me, the reason why I stay in it is because I constantly see people's lives changed. Just an example, somebody I'm working with currently for the last, I think, 8 weeks, she's gotten engaged. She's changed from a career where she was a nurse, working in 3 different jobs, like having 3 different bosses. And now she's attracted the job that she wanted, where she's working one place. She's able to integrate her home life and her work life with more ease, and even getting more money. So very real things, but it comes from the space of really knowing what your internal guidance system is drawing you towards. And the reason why it's the muse is it really is this feminine voice, for men, women, children, and everybody, that is all about receiving, right? It's this space of being and receiving. And when we move into that space, things shift and change for us. So yeah, I don't know really what else to say other than it's a lot of fun. I can hear things from people's bodies, and I've been able to do it since I was really young. It scared the bejeebas out of me, and I didn't like it for a long time and turned a lot of it off. I have a far off. It's not the same as you, Linda, at all, but I got really sick and nearly died from trying to turn off all my abilities and live normally. And so when Spirit spoke through the doctors that wouldn't have normally said, like, she can heal herself, leave her alone, stop doing, like, don't do a blood transfusion and so on. It awakened my soul inside me and helped me to start listening to that voice and to stop making myself wrong for hearing what was going on in other people's bodies that I could help them with. So instead of feeling like I was invasive and helping people just willy-nilly out there, I decided to do it for a living. Because when people give you permission, there's so much more power there. So I stay out of people's bodies and minds unless they give permission. And then we go to town and have a lot of fun. So
amazing. I mean, I know from personal experience that it's amazing, but it really is a transformative experience entirely. It's very holistic. And also you're touching on something that I just want to bring up, because I think everyone here is able to relate to this. You know, we all seem to be living in this time where many of us, regardless of our age, there's a lot of talk about, you know, indigo children and starseed children, this new generation that's very interesting, right? Of young children, they're different. I'm a teacher, so I've worked with many of them, and there's definitely something different going on. And people are talking about this, right? This is happening all over the world, of this new generation of children who seem to have abilities and seem to feel very strongly about the earth and things like that. But in terms of us, you know, people who are around our age or in our generation or older or younger, that many of us are saying basically what you just said, Tara. I mean, Linda, you've definitely had this experience of living our life, you know, the usual way. You get a job, you go to school, you date, you have friends, you go to parties, whatever. And then all of a sudden you start to become aware that there's something else going on. There's something very deep, something very real, and it's difficult to process that, right? Especially in this culture and society where there's no space to really talk about these things. It's becoming like, now they're becoming more and more spaces for us to have these conversations. But, you know, when I was growing up, I certainly didn't feel able to talk about that. So it's also amazing that so many of us in our adult lives, even with all the conditioning we've had, right, and all the messaging that we've experienced through our lives from society and culture, that we're still able to face this part of ourselves and really integrate it into who we are, and, you know, live in this place, right? Live in this place of more authenticity, because we can't not, you know, it becomes so undeniable that you cannot turn away from it, even if it's something that you feel like is external. You know, if you're someone who's seeing UFOs all the time, that still changes you. You know, it might not be something you're experiencing in yourself, but it has a hugely transformative spiritual experience. So I want to jump over to Jean. Tara, thank you for sharing what you said. Much, much, much appreciated. And also, I know you're not feeling so great today, so extra appreciation for being here. So Jean, I would love to hear from you. What do you think about your, well, actually, let me change that question. Let's start with your connection with Deb. How did you originally find Deb and connect to be able to do this kind of work together and participate in Worldwide Metaphysical Tribe?
I believe Tara introduced us. For a moment, I was like, how did I meet Deb? And then I was like, Tara introduced us a few years ago.
Okay.
And Deb invited me to speak at her group.
Wonderful, wonderful. So share with us a little bit about yourself. You know, what has your experience been like, and what will you be talking about at the Worldwide Metaphysical Tribe this summer?
I will not be talking about anything metaphysical. So it's like, I am like the least woo-woo person there. And I'm going to be talking about to these people as business owners and how they can literally turn their businesses around. Because I know in the metaphysical tribe and in the metaphysical world that most of them do not know how to make enough money, and they look at this as a gift that they have and feel bad capitalizing on it. So, which never allows them to earn enough money so they can be more, do more, have more, or give more.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, I will be listening closely because I'm definitely wanting to learn about that very thing. But Jean, at the same time, you're not presenting at the Better Business Bureau. You know, you're here with a whole bunch of weirdos. So there's a reason why you're here with a whole bunch of weirdos. You are also a weirdo, and there's got to be something about you, right? Please share with us.
I have a little bit of a woo-woo side, and I do let her come out and play once in a while, and I get to come out and play it. And I do talk a lot about the law of attraction and things of that nature, but it really is about simple ways that people can make money. I bought 2 bankrupt businesses, and I literally had one option to turn them around fast or lose the dream home that I took a mortgage out on in order to buy them. So,
Wow.
and failure is not an option for me. So it really is about helping other people. I've known that that was my mission in life since I was 26 years old, that I was supposed to help small business owners make more money. I just did not know how to do it at 26 because I had never been a business owner. So
Wow.
it was just crazy that I found my purpose in life so early, and then I had to spend the next 30 years trying to figure out how to use how to activate my purpose.
Wow, that's amazing, Jean, because, you know, I think sometimes people, when we use that phrase, I have a purpose, you know, I have a mission, people don't necessarily associate that with helping people build businesses, you know, but it doesn't matter how we use that feeling. When we have that feeling of, oh, this is my purpose, this is what I'm here for, I'm here to do this, then it's just a matter of figuring out where to put it. And it could be in any kind of area at all, business or something metaphysical, it doesn't really matter. It's all essentially the same thing. That's my personal view. And I love that you said that your purpose in life is helping people. I think that everyone here is here because we all feel that it's very important to contribute to this community, right? To do our part to make life better for ourselves and for others. So Deb, I'm just going to bring it back to you. Thank you, Jean, and we'll come back to you again. Okay. But Deb, I want to go back to you because this sort of circles back to your reason for starting the tribe. I know you alluded to that already in your introduction, but now we've sort of introduced everyone. We've talked a lot about what they're going to be doing, and you know, the meaning behind this event is being revealed now that we're deeper in conversation. So I just want to go back to you and ask if there's anything you'd like to add about the purpose of this event and what this is bringing to people's lives.
Well, I'd like to first of all just say one thing, and that is that I'm a party planner. I was a born party planner. So I had to figure out where to put that. What am I going to do with my love of planning parties? And that's part of the backbone of the metaphysical tribe. So that's what makes it so much fun for me to throw it together. But as far as the deep impetus behind it all, the first time or the first 2 times we met at my house, just, hanging out, had a big bonfire, s'mores, it was no big deal. Watched the Perseid meteor shower. But for some reason, people kept asking me to do it next year. You're going to do it next year, right? And I think, really? Most of the people who came the first 2 years, including Linda Wilkes,
Mhm.
they drove 100 miles each way to get to my home. And they left at 11:30 at night. And I'm thinking, and they want to do this again? Okay, hey, I don't have to drive. I'm cool with it. But after on this during the second year,
Well, let me
I
ask you
had
something. Let me ask you something. Why do you think that people wanted it to happen again? What was it
I
about
don't
it the
know.
first one?
The first time it happened, there was the biggest full moon, and it was overlooking the cars driving home, with all of the people who had come. It was shining in my bedroom window all night, and I just thought there was something going on here, but I couldn't tell what it was. The second year that we had this in my backyard, I thought, well, I should I should make it something special. We can't just have s'mores and, you know, sit around the campfire. So what are we going to do? So I called a storyteller friend of mine, and he told a story about a mortal man who met a fairy and married her. It was a great little story. It He was so talented, it seemed like his 5-minute storytelling was actually a 30-minute story.
Mhm.
But he was standing in front of a part of my yard that the wild space. And I'll digress for just a moment and say that the wild space is named for Findhorn. If you have not heard of Findhorn in northern Scotland, this is a great rabbit hole to go down. Um, in Findhorn, there was a couple who had no money and they had no visible means of support. They wound up on during the winter in a trailer home on the beach, if you can imagine Scotland in the winter. And they started hearing voices from the fairies. And the fairies were telling them, well, if you want to eat, because they were starving, you have to grow this plant this way and that plant that way. You can't just treat us all the same. And so this couple started to follow the advice of the fairies. Long story short, the fairies did tell them at the end of, or somewhere in the middle of their relationship, they said, you must leave us a wild space. This is a place where you're not cultivating, you don't have a plan, it has to be wild, and this gives us a chance to recharge. So I have this huge wild space in my backyard, and it's for the fairies. And I always said that, never seen one, but
I love that.
well,
I
so
mean, being
Fox,
being Irish, I'm sort of biased. There's a lot of fairy and leprechaun
right.
stuff over there. Yeah.
So our storyteller tells the story of this guy who marries a fairy. And at the end of it, Linda Wilkes stood up and she said, Pan, who is, everyone knows who studies fairies, Pan is the head of the fairies.
Mm.
She said, Pan just told me if we say his name 3 times, he'll appear. Every time I tell this story right now, I have goosebumps every single time. And I just looked at her and I looked at the group. And so I stood up in front of everybody and we drew out his name, Pan, Pan. And we got to the third one. Oh, and now I have to digress again. Sorry. It was a super hot day. It was the hottest um, tribe event we've ever had. It was probably 95, and I think the humidity was 10 million.
Mhm.
And everybody who came, God love them, all they wanted to do was go home and take a shower. But no, they were there for my backyard thing. And in the wild space, all of the plants, the trees, the brambles, everything, they were just like this. They were just wilting. They couldn't take the heat. So here we are, listening to the words of Linda Wilkes, say Pan's name 3 times. I turn around and look in the wild space, and all the plants are like this. except this one bush that was shaking at 100 miles an hour. And I tell you, there was no breeze. We would have killed for a breeze. We would have given all our money for a breeze. There was no breeze. And yet this one bush in the corner, which is now swallowed up by the wild space, you can't even see it anymore, shook and shook and shook. And I looked at the group and I said, am I the only one seeing this? And everybody else, I looked at them and their mouths are hanging open. So I thought, okay, there's something going on here. And I guess I better figure out what it is. So after everyone left, I just thought about it. What did everybody do today? What brought them happiness? What ignited something? And I built it on that.
Wow. And you know, I love that, Deb, because it's sort of this feeling of magic and possibility, right? And
sure.
also not like, why can't we entertain the possibility that fairies are real? You know, like, why not? What's so terrible and ridiculous about that? We have absolutely no way of proving that they're not, that they don't exist, you know. And so what I love about this community and about the event that you've created, and that all the topics that everyone here has been talking about that they're going to be speaking to the audience about this summer, is that it's all about the expansion of possibility in terms of our thinking, right? Just being open to possibilities, just entertaining them, and then being able to receive, as Tara was talking about, right? Once we allow ourselves to be open to the possibility of whatever could be out there, because we all know there's a lot more to reality than what we currently think that there is, then, you know, all these other things tend to unfold because we're willing and we're open, we start to receive, and then other things start to occur. So I actually want to ask the group, and anyone can speak if they'd like to. I'd like to ask the group if anybody can relate to that particular kind of experience. You know, I mean, I think everybody can. When you start to get these hints of, you know, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, or I'm not paying attention to the right thing. You know, I'm sort of being pulled towards whatever this is, even if it doesn't seem to make any sense to me, or I can't understand it, or I don't fully get what the message is. There's some deep part of me that's saying, pay attention to this. And then it ends up leading us down this path where all these other things unfold. And then ta-da, we end up presenting at the same, you know, event together in rural Illinois. I've never even been to Illinois. So would anybody like to speak to that? Just how it sort of starts with this kernel of, you know, mystery and magic, kind of what Deb was talking about, right? The magic feeling, the feeling of possibility or purpose, and then how that unfolds over time. Just want to put that out there for everyone. I know Grant can relate to that because he had a huge sighting, UFO sighting, very famous in Canada, called Charlie Red Star in 1974. Tons and tons of people witnessed it, but very few people actually did anything with it. A lot of people were kind of like, that's really odd. Okay, well, you know, back to, I got to go grocery shopping tomorrow and I got to pay the phone bill, you know. But Grant said, hang on a second. No, this is very weird. Something's going on here and I need to figure out what it is. And here he is all these years later still doing this, right? So it really ignites something in us, this sense of there being more out there, right? That there being more to reality. So given that that's kind of the heart of, I think, all of these kinds of events, right? Talking about all these things and expanding how we think and expanding how we perceive. Would anybody like to speak to that?
And I'll maybe speak first because as Deb pointed out, people sort of got the idea that this is UFOs. When I saw this thing in 1975, I didn't just say that's kind of weird. I sort of swore a little bit. It was like, I could not believe what had happened. None of the things that happened in my life I planned. I did not plan to see a UFO. I had no intention. We only went to this small town because everybody was talking about it. It was the local TV station. I got it on film. The biggest event that happened to me was the event where I suddenly realized it's not as nuts and bolts as people think it is. The whole world, and that was the 2012, where I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm watching Colin Andrews talk about crop circles. I have no interest in crop circles whatsoever. I only go there because he's a very famous guy, and I figure I should go in the lecture and listen to him because this is an event, a big conference where it goes from 8 o'clock in the morning till 11 o'clock at night, and you don't go to all the lectures. So I said, okay, I'll go into this lecture, and that's when I have this noetic experience where basically I am told, this is consciousness. This has got to the answer to your question I'd asked in 1975, what the hell is going on, is consciousness. And from then on, I basically went into a world where I did all sorts of weird consciousness things. And I've gone sort of to the opposite extreme where to me there is no physical world. I mean, it's this concept of how does reality work? How does consciousness work? So that's basically what I've basically done since 2012. But I've had one event after another where I did not plan. I mean, I did not plan even to meet Sinead. She was sending emails and I was ignoring them. And we had that situation. Everything to me has been these bizarre things where I get led down one road and then another road. And I'm in a situation where I really don't need anybody's money. I don't need anybody's approval. I can do what I want. And I basically don't talk about UFOs really at all. I mean, that is part of the whole thing. But I go into the whole idea that I was trained. I actually spent money to go to Chicago for a week to be trained as a healer on the Bankston healing method. I've been around the world. I've chased every sort of bizarre thing. And I am real far left in terms of consciousness, in terms of the idea. And when I had my 2012 experience, I'm going to be talking about contact modalities, which is the whole idea of what this is all about. That the tribe has people who are psychics and walk-ins and people who are healing and mediums and tarot card readers and stuff. And that's what the whole book's about. It's about this whole idea that it's all the same thing. And that came from my 2012 experience. The week after my experience, another event happened in Florida to a guy by the name of Ray Hernandez, who ended up starting an institute with Edgar Mitchell, was the sixth man to walk on the moon, where they looked at experiencers. And his experience was basically the same time as mine. And then he wanted to know, he said, there's something about consciousness. Something's going on here with this UFO thing. It's got something to do with consciousness. And I said, well, I'm going to be in Florida. Why don't you come and I'm going to do a lecture on consciousness and then we'll talk. 2 days after that lecture, he's on the Miami freeway and he's an IRS attorney doing $1 million accounts as an IRS attorney. And he's basically flipped out of his body in an experience. He's pulled out of his body, sitting in a traffic jam in Miami near the airport. And this is the key, the whole thing, what this sort of the bottom line to this conference is he was taken up and he was shown a wheel that was moving around. And on the wheel was psychic phenomena, remote viewing, all sorts of other paranormal phenomena, quantum physics, UFOs, and this stuff was going around. And they said, you have to quit parsing this stuff. It's all the same thing. And in the middle of the wheel, these visions, it was linked by consciousness. And they say, you're breaking it apart. So what we do, even in the paranormal world or in the UFO world, the UFO people will say, the science fiction people will say, well, we're not into UFOs, and the UFO people are not into science fiction. The paranormal people don't like the UFO people, and you have all these different things, and everybody thinks they've got the answer, and in fact, it's all the same thing. It's the bottom line to it's all consciousness. Everything is consciousness. You even get into, is there even a physical world? So that's where I've gone real extreme. And I've looked at all the different modalities, and that's what I'm going to talk about, all these different modalities. I'm going to show you it's all the same thing. All the people are tapped into, it's all a conscious world, and it's like an illusionary world where we're sort of making it up, and we're starting to be supported by science. But people think it's nuts and bolts, and I always say about UFOs, and I say it all the time, and I don't really care what anybody in the UFO community says. I say it will be, I'll guarantee you, it will not be as physical as you think it is. It will be way more spiritual than you think it is. And it will be at least 1,000 times more complex than what you think it is. People have no concept how the universe works. It is absolutely amazing, unbelievable. And the paranormal is the anomalies of the world, where whatever modality you're using is an anomaly, which just shows you we've got something wrong. If things were happening the way the world says they're happening, none of the stuff at the Metaphysical conference would be happening. They're happening because something we understand about the world is wrong. We're making mistakes. And that's why the people who are will be at the tribe event are the leading people in the world in terms of the fact that they are exemplifying the fact that the world is not the way we think it is. These people are doing exactly what they say they're doing, and it means we have no clue. And that's what they told me. And I've had a lot of noetic experiences where they told me, you haven't got a clue. You are arrogant. You think you know what's going on. You haven't got a clue. In fact, everything that you believe, it's exactly the opposite of what you believe. So that's what I'm on the very far edge of consciousness research. How does the world work? How does reality work? And the anomalies are telling us that's where we got to go in terms of figuring out how the world works, and the fact it's not as nuts and bolts as people think it is.
Thank you, Grant. And, I really love that you are emphasizing we don't have a clue, because there's so much, again, possibility in just saying, I don't know. We have this habit, as you and I have talked about many times, and I think the panelists here can relate to as well, that people are very fixated, human nature. We're very fixated on putting things in organized rows and having them in boxes so we can understand them. We want to lock them down and understand them. And that's a form of control. But if we just say, I don't know, right? And I don't have all the answers. And how can I possibly? I'm a grain of sand in this massive universe, right? Then it allows us to have less limitations in our thinking. We're able to be more exploratory. So I just want to put it out to the panel. Would anybody like to speak to this? Because it really is a really wonderful topic. We're sort of centering things here on consciousness, on mindset, on how we think, and the power of mind, the power of energy and vibration that comes along with that. And being in a sort of vulnerable, a place of vulnerability, a place where we're open to possibilities, and then things can happen. Who would like to speak to that? You guys are wise folks. You got a lot to say. Deb.
First of all, this is the reason why I asked Grant to speak at the Metaphysical Tribe event, was because he's saying the same things that we say. He's just coming from a different perspective. And if you listen to him, you hear the same conversations that we have. And I really do feel that this is a watershed moment, this particular conference, because it hasn't been done yet. No one's doing it. We're going to do it. Whoever comes is going to have an incredible experience, because we're taking two major thought systems from two different perspectives, and we're showing how they are all one, and that we are all talking about the same thing. Just briefly, in 1993, I was blessed to interview the heads of the world's religions for a documentary, and it was so much fun. I personally have no religion, and so it was nice to come at it from a fresh perspective. And what I realized at the end of the whole thing is everybody that I talked to was talking about the same thing. They just had different traditions around it. And once I realized that, I didn't have well, we're the one true religion, and you all are all confused and you don't get it. And so I feel like this group that is meeting in August is an almighty group of people. First of all, we have Jean coming. Jean Kuhn is, I just have to say, when she spoke in 2019, our last live event, I never saw so many people dig for paper and pen so fast in my life. She can break it down into useful pieces of information that you can use right now. And this is her gift. And those of us who are in this corner of this niche of the world for our way of living, why should we not have the income that we need to be able to show the people that need to hear it what we have to offer? And you can't do it if you're sitting in your basement waiting to win the lottery. So Jean actually ties this all together for me, because yes, we can all have amazing experiences, but unless we have the wherewithal to be able to go out and speak to other people. And after this event, I think something is going to really crack open because we are in a new place now. And everybody's been saying, oh, 2020 was so awful. 2021, no better. When is this going to end? Well, it's it's going to begin the birthing process, I believe, at our event. And the reason is because we're bringing so many groups together to hear that we are all operating from consciousness
Mhm.
and how this affects the world because we're looking at it inside out. We're looking at it the wrong way.
Totally agree. You know, I could not agree more. So I won't bother running off my mouth on that right now because there's just so much to say. I'd like to give everyone else the opportunity to pipe up. This is a kind of an open conversation. I mean, we aren't talking about the metaphysical tribe. We are talking about each one of you and, you know, what you are bringing to the tribe and what your topics are. So by all means, feel free to talk on that if that's what you'd like to focus on. But there's also, you know, this is such an expansive time. It is such an expansive topic. This is such an expansive event. And so, you know, there's just so many opportunities for the conversation to go in different directions, which is exciting and wonderful, I think. So feel free to get a bit abstract if you'd like to, or speak more on your topic. We'd love to hear from you because it gives people who are going to listen to this more of an idea of what they can get excited about with regard to this event. It really is something very special. So who would like to speak up?
I'll go. So I just wanted to share, you asked earlier, like, what was a magical moment? And I have to say for me, moving into the space of who I am right now wasn't magical at all. I did it kicking and screaming. Everything that I was naturally gifted with and what I was experiencing and being felt like it didn't fit in. And there were moments where I felt judged. And I didn't want to be judged, right? Like, I think what I was after from the very beginning was a sense of belonging, but I didn't realize that in losing myself and who I truly was, I could never belong. Like, I would always feel outside of groups, outside of myself, smaller, whatever it was. But I sought after how to be normal, like how to fit in and how to be normal for so long. And so I stuffed down the gifts, gifts from like when I was 11 and my grandfather passed away. Like, I spent the whole night talking to him and like talking to the clouds and to the elements, and you know, and that freaked other people out, and I didn't realize. And so that whole experience of other people judging me for my ability to cry for other people, and I just wanted it all to stop. So for me, it really was pain that invited me into my gifts. It was like, it was either you're going to die. You know, I was in the hospital with HELP syndrome. I think it's hilarious. It's called HELP, but like that's actually what it's called. And and right, it's like perfect. And that was the moment that I got invited into knowing myself as whole and embracing it. Otherwise, I wasn't going to continue to survive. And I think that it's not always magical. Like, it's not always magical moments. It's like you can fight and resist, and then when you finally surrender and you are vulnerable, then the power comes. I really believe that there's power in vulnerability. And then also, there's a fallacy out there that when you truly become yourself and you own yourself, that you lose everyone. I actually have found the opposite to be true. I have found deeper connections. I've found some people fall away for a little while, but they rise back up and connect in a more meaningful manner. They show up in a way that's way more supportive because I'm willing to be me and be honest, right? Because I think when we're not being us, we're not honest. We don't realize that because we're seeking approval and validation and so many other things. So I love the fact that I really don't understand anything about the UFO, paranormal, science fiction world other than TV shows that I liked and watched with my dad when I was young. And yet, like, this whole conversation, I'm like, everything in my body as each person is talking is vibrating in the space of yes, yes, like be there, be in this space, listen to what they have to say, because there is so much power, like you said, Sinead, in saying, I don't know.
Mhm.
It opens everything up. And so
Yeah.
I'm willing to say, I have no idea, and how cool that you're going to bring more to my world and to each person's world, and what can we create from that space. So I can't wait to be a participant, not just a speaker. So showing up for that piece.
Ditto. Yes, I feel the same way. You know, the thing, I think you and I and Deb have had a couple of conversations together where we've just said we can't wait to just be together, like just being in the same space, because it creates this amazing collective energy. But I also really appreciate you saying, Tara, that it's not always magical. It's not always pretty. It's not always beautiful. So agree. And, you know, one of the things that Grant and I have had millions of conversations about and interviewed people on is the fact that we live, you know, this is our perspective anyway, that we live in this 3D dimension, whatever you want to call it. We live in this current reality where duality is very much a part of how we live. And so there's good and bad, so-called, in everything. And, you know, I don't like those black and white terms of good and bad. Things really are shades of gray, but that they both serve a purpose, that they both help us to grow, and that, you know, things can be very, very challenging and very difficult, especially maybe when we're coming into our true selves, when we're making a shift into living more authentically. I think Linda can certainly relate to that. So maybe she'd like to speak to that. But Linda, just in case you do, I'm going to give you a minute to think about it, because I want to jump to Jeff for a second. Tara mentioned UFOs and saying she doesn't know anything about it. And Jeff, you've been doing a lot with orbs, and some people think that orbs are also a kind of UFO. And so, you know, that just made me think of you. But the question I want to ask you is, even though this is seemingly for you an experience of something external, you know, seemingly it's external, what has been the impact for you? Like, why is this something that you feel that you need to bring to other people rather than just keeping it for yourself and doing all this documenting on your own? Why do you feel like you need to bring it to others?
Because I feel like everyone has the ability within themselves to see the same things that I'm seeing. And like you mentioned, like it's, for me, like it actually, you know, started as an external thing, like, you know, wanting to see flying saucers and stuff like that. And I did quite a few times and still do. But I started to notice things about them that that it was more of like a connection than, like Grant, you were saying, like, than you would think. In that, like, it seemed like, so I would do certain protocols that I do that, you know, where I sort of say things in my head and welcome them, and, you know, and then they appear, like in the sky. So just that connection that we can, you know, sort of manifest and create for ourselves to have with them. But the more and more I started like shooting images and video, the more I was seeing that it was definitely not like a physical thing, and that it almost this idea that everything comes from nothing, and that as you'll see in like some of the images and videos, that things just kind of appear out of nothing. And including some of like the video I have of craft that seem to like come in and out of this reality in a way. So it's kind of led me to this path of seeing how nothing's actually separate in this world, and just the message of oneness, and how everything in this actual reality is, if you start to look at things like, you know, like politics or even sports, everything is this or that. You choose one thing or the other. So this sort of like openness to a non-binary view of the world. Yeah.
I was muted. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Grant, would you like to jump in? I know you have quite a bit of, well, of course, you have quite a bit of insight, being an expert on these things, into, you know, orbs and UFOs, and you've also done a couple of orb panels and collected quite a lot of data and material on that. Do you want to jump in and make any remarks about connecting to what Jeff just said?
Well, what Jeff was saying, and I think Deb said the same thing, and that's the key message I see from all the different modalities that I've looked at, whether it's Edgar Casey, where I started before I had the UFO sighting, to everything is this oneness message. That is the number one message that experiencers talk about, 54%. We want to parse it. That's why we get into these sort of divisions, whether it's political or whether it's the paranormal thing, where we turn it into religions. We want to have I or me in every sentence that we do, and so we turn it into our own little thing, and we have the answer. I can almost 100% guarantee you the answer is it's all one thing. It's all connected. That is the message they want us to do it, and they basically are saying unless you get it together and understand that everything is one, it's game over, because you cannot be fighting against each other and separation. And that's where it's important to do this metaphysical tribe event. Is it's not just one thing. It's not saying this is the answer, that's the answer. It's basically saying that all these people have come together and everybody has a piece of the puzzle, and we all exchange our stories and we understand better how the world works when it's all over. But even the orb thing, when you start looking at the orb thing, which we've done here, I started picking up these people all around the world, and everybody has a different interpretation. Some people think it's dead people, or they'll say, take a look, there's an alien in this orb and I can never see the faces. And people will say, that's my mother, or that's my dead father, or stuff like that. And you start to see this crossover where everybody has their interpretation. And that's where we have to realize that we are part of, as the great physicist John Wheeler said, it's a participatory universe. We're part of what we're experiencing. We want to separate ourselves. We got to realize we're part of this very elaborate thing, and that we came in at this particular time. So when it comes to the situation, I see everything as experience, that we come into the world at this particular time, at this particular place, in the middle of whatever mess we find ourselves in. And we probably came because we said, oh, the COVID's happening, I'd like to go there. I'd like to go during that because I think I can contribute. And that's where I sort of vary from a lot of people, where I say we are here for a reason, and all we got to do is figure out what are we supposed to do, and are we doing it, and not really worry about what other people are doing. And it'll all be gathered together. There are these synchronicities which you and I have experienced, and that things are very connected when you start getting down, especially when you put your mind to it. And so that's part of it. You haven't explained to people what you're going to be talking about. You and I are going to talk a little bit about an event that we did last year, a very, very bizarre event, probably the most paranormal bizarre event I have ever experienced in 47 years or 46 years. Sinead, are you there?
Sorry, yes, I am. Okay, there we go. Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. Yes, that was quite something. I mean, it's a difficult thing to explain because there are so many different aspects to it and so many people that were involved. I mean, there are collective experiences, collective aspects of the experience, but it seems like, there are a couple of people from that group who were there, the Rama group, who were in Arizona. I want to say Arizona. There were two different locations where they were experiencing paranormal activity, but I want to say Arizona. And
Mount Shasta.
Mount Shasta, thank you.
But most of them were Mexicans. We should point out this is a very sort of religious group. It's a Peruvian group that has a lot of sort of religious practices in their worldview and stuff like that. Very sort of Christian stuff. And so I've been in experience with these people for a number of years. I've had experiences with them. But then we heard this story last year, which I said was, and we're going to talk about this. They won't talk to us anymore. The 9 witnesses, they're not talking to us anymore. But we did an interview. We talked to these people, and it was just like the most bizarre paranormal story I've ever heard in my life. Just unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, they do seem to think that the Rama group does seem to think that, because they are approaching it in a sort of religious way, and they have a very disciplined approach, a very systematic methodology.
Methodological.
Thank you. Finally wrapped my mouth around that. They have a very kind of, set methodology and very set system that they go by in order to create this contact. So they seem to feel that that is the key, right? That is how the contact is made. And then there are people, as we're kind of discussing here, there are people in so many different groups and so many different, you know, sub communities of this general community of the paranormal, who feel that, you know, having disciplined practice, or having a let's say a rigid practice. I'm sure Rama people don't feel like it's rigid, it's there for a purpose, it's organized, that it serves a purpose, but that you don't need to have that it's all about, you know, having just an open heart and that kind of thing. But they really feel that this is key, and as a result they're having quite incredible experiences. So they met this being called Antarel, which comes from another planet, and he arrived in this you know, at the edge of this forest where they were at Mount Shasta. They were all camping for the night. And so they had done a lot of, I think, practice during the day, and had hoped for something to happen. They received a message that they were going to be getting a visit. Antarel appeared. He was hugely tall. You can see him on video. This is the really incredible thing. There was a video that was taken where there's this tall pillar that appears. So there's somebody that's taking a video, and they're kind of scanning like this around, just showing who's there. You know, the forest is pretty and what their campsite is like. They're not trying to film anything paranormal. They don't see anything there. They're just filming casually, right? And then in the film, you see them pan like this, and you see the edge of the forest where Antarel is going to appear, but he's not there yet. They pan like this, and they pan back, and suddenly there's a being there, a tall white pillar being that looks like it has a body. And then you see it moving. You see it walking through the frames of the video, or moving, not necessarily walking, moving from left to right. So what is this? And why is there also this mysterious black rectangle that suddenly appears against the trunk of a tree? What is that doing there, right? So they witnessed this, and then later on he ended up showing up in front of the group, and it became this incredible, just extraordinary experience. But it just seems like there are more and more, you know, regardless of the groups or regardless of the topic or the person, more and more people are coming out to talk about these things. Whereas before, you know, maybe just as much wonderful, strange stuff was happening. Somehow I doubt that. I think we are in a new energetic phase of some kind. That's just my feeling and my personal opinion. But perhaps a lot of this stuff was happening before, but it couldn't be talked about. It couldn't be revealed to the public. You know, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have this ability to connect the way we are now. There was a lot more stigma. So we are in a fascinating time at the moment, and a really wonderful time, I think, to be alive. Even though the world does seem in many ways to be a scary or dangerous or distressing place, there's still all this incredible stuff going on of, you know, huge progress and growth in all kinds of areas: quantum physics, science, you know, psychedelics, medical stuff, NDEs, you know, medical doctors are now looking at NDEs. So this stuff is making its way into the mainstream. And so we're here at such an incredible, potent, exciting time. And it's just such a wonderful gift to be able to talk about these things with each other. So again, I want to bring it back to the panelists. Linda, I'm going to just jump to you because I said I would give you an opportunity to speak about how your experience, you know, I'm going to touch a little bit on what Tara said about how things are not always wonderful and beautiful. You know, your experience of coming in, realizing that you were a walk-in soul was not an easy one for you. That was very challenging. And then after you accepted that, all these other things started to unfold in your life. And it does seem like you are tuned into the consciousness aspect of this. So would you like to speak to any of those things that I just mentioned there? I think you might be muted.
Okay, how's that?
There you go.
Okay, good. Yeah. And one thing about me having the walk-in experience, and I have to say that it is me, and it took me some time to incorporate that idea into the totality of who I am. I had to accept it, but I had to grieve the soul that I lost, my original soul. After I did that, my consciousness began to become expansive. And it became expansive because the soul that entered my body was from another dimension, a higher dimension, and had worked on other planetary systems prior to embodying within me. So therefore, I was calling the information that I was getting channeled information, because that's what people pretty much understood. But actually, it was sharing information and opening me up to new knowledge, new information, and expanding my consciousness. And it was expanding my consciousness so fast that I had to do some inner talk and say, wait, you're giving me too much, too fast. I want you to give me this information in a harmonious way that I can stay balanced and grounded, because the consciousness that happened and the expansiveness of it is almost, it's amazing, but it's very difficult to explain in our normal everyday language. I've learned how to sit and expand the expression of my own soul, and I teach my clients individually when they're prepared or ready as to how to experience this and how to activate the powerful innate abilities of the soul. You know, just simply telling them that the soul does not fit within this physical structure, and it is as expansive as you can see it or believe it to be. For myself, my sharer, which is my walk-in soul, indicated to me that I should see my soul as large as the room that I was sitting in. And I was sitting in a very large room. And then it began to tell me how I could see it as large as 2 rooms. And the more I expanded my own awareness as to who I am in essence, the more powerful I would become. It shared with me so much information on healing. It gave me innate tools. And also it expanded my intuition, and it expanded my ability to just know what a person is going to say or feel before they say it. And it has been so expansive, and it's given me the ability to help so many people as far as distant healing. I've been very capable and able of doing feats that I've never been able to do. Information such as that I have never been taught in a specific discipline. It allowed me to differentiate between my physical body and my brain structure and my mind. It has informed me that the mind is very separate, and it goes on when the body makes its transition. That is the essence of what the soul is, consciousness. And that we can tap into the consciousness because the consciousness of those who have passed on has never died. If there's anything that I would like to know or understand, I put my consciousness on the consciousness of those who have gone on, be it a mental scientist, be it a physician, whatever it is I need, I can do that. But this is because that soul that walked in has so much power and knowledge, and it has empowered me. And it helps me to help individuals expand that awareness. It also helps me to radiate out energy, to just radiate it out to groups of people or individuals, and they can feel it.
I'm feeling it through the screen, Linda.
Yeah, I feel it as it flows out, and it's a very high vibration, and they teach me how to keep myself in a very, very high vibration, because vibrations and frequencies are so important. And so it has shifted my entire consciousness, expanded my consciousness, and I can connect my consciousness with the consciousness of another individual to help them become more whole in whatever their desires are. So I love consciousness. I love awareness. It's so important, being aware, paying attention. You know, it's the most important thing. Even when my physical brain begins to move into a little negativity, my mind, which is connected to the innate new soul that walked in, it tells me there are over 7 billion people on the planet. You do not need to think on that negativity because you are here, you are alive. And if you had passed over when you were deemed almost dead, you wouldn't be having these experiences anyway. So they're not important. Appreciate that you have this new soul and that you're here to just observe and to play your part in the large scheme of things.
I love that, Linda. That was so beautiful, and I feel your energy through the screen. Like what you've said about vibration, really. I think everyone here. Again, I keep repeating myself, but you know, once you kind of wake up to this feeling that, you know, there's something more, or there's something I need to know, or there's a path here I have to follow. You know, the more you follow that, the more you come into awareness of who, as you're kind of saying, and everybody is saying, of who we truly are. And you're not kind of saying that, you really are saying that, who we truly are, right? Once we come into that more and more, then our power starts to reveal itself. So you are a wonderful living example of that. And I really feel, I see your empowerment. I see your, you know, the energy that you're putting out. And I love the way that you describe that. It really is so true that when we allow ourselves to expand, and actually, Tara, can you talk to this, because you helped me with that when we were doing our work together and I was your client. You know, a few weeks ago, you were talking about how the expansiveness of energy is incredibly important, right? That you have to allow it to go past the borders of your physical body, like Linda was just talking about. Grant talks about this all the time too, you know, that this is not something that we understand. We're not allowing ourselves to live in that expansive space. We're taught to be so constricting with ourselves, right? We're taught that, oh, you can't behave that way, you can't talk like that, you can't use those words, you can't do this. So there's this feeling of making ourselves smaller and smaller and smaller through life, and not allowing ourselves to be our true self. But in the work that you do, in what Linda is saying, the power comes from allowing ourselves to feel as large as we actually are. I mean, one of the downloads I got when I was a very young child was that each one of us is a universe, a whole universe in ourselves, and that is the same as the universe outside of us. But if we want to understand who we are, we have to investigate our own universe first, and then bring that into connection with the rest of it. And I was reminded of that, Tara, when I was doing my work with you. Would you like to quickly speak to that? And then I've got a question for Jean after that.
I'd just say that you and Linda said it really well. So I'm going to leave it right there. I can't add anything else to it. So
Okay.
I'll let you speak.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sometimes too many words are not a good thing. So Jean, what I wanted to ask you is that, you know, although you have spoken very humbly here, you said, you know, I'm just this person who helps people with their businesses. This is my purpose, but this is what I do. And I don't necessarily have paranormal experiences. But I'm getting this really strong feeling that you have a power of intuition, because if I feel like you are able, you tell me if I'm right or wrong, but this is the feeling I'm having, that you are able to tune into people, what they need, and observe them very closely, and kind of intuit what they might need in order to move forward on their own individual paths. Would you like to speak to that for a minute?
Yeah, I'm really aware of the fact when I'm really aware of the fact for a lot of things. Talking about, like, you've heard that saying, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. Absolutely. So when somebody appears for me, I am 100% looking for what I'm supposed to learn from that person. So, and that has just increased over the last probably 10 or 12 years, that I'm becoming so aware of the people around me, and what am I supposed to get from them, and what am I supposed to give to them. And so you're right, I do feel very intuitive, especially when I'm working with clients as far as what they need in their business, because as I'm having a conversation with them, I'm literally thinking, where the hell did that come from? Right? I've said something to them that they needed to hear. And on the other hand, I'm like, that's not something I normally would say. So, right. I'm really aware of the people around me and their energy, because I do feel like I read people's energy as far as knowing whether or not I want to be around this person, not like Tara does, right? That is to another level of reading energy. But I do feel like I can tell, is this somebody I want to spend time with very quickly or not? And is this somebody who has something for me or I'm supposed to give to? I can feel that really fast also, that they're there because they need something, or they're there because they need to give me something.
Wow.
Right?
So please keep going.
I didn't even realize that till I'm listening to this conversation here today, right? Of all of what that's about, because I don't know why, I just, all of a sudden it's like, oh God, yeah, I didn't really have anything I was going to add to the conversation until this last little piece here.
Yes, yes. I mean, I'm not surprised, right? I think when we're on this path, we just keep discovering more and more and kind of surprising ourselves how much we are connected to things that we think we might not be, or, maybe ways we were when we were a child that we later become disconnected from because of the conditioning as adults. But we think it's gone. We think that's just an innocence of childhood thing. But then you can actually reconnect with, those very strong instincts and insights and abilities to tune in that children have. So that kind of leads to my next question for you. Before you grew up and became an adult and entered onto this career path, became a professional, there must have been some ways that your instinct and your intuition was showing up in your life prior to that to kind of help you feel like this is a place where you could put it right into this profession and help people in this way. So I want to ask you if you've ever had experiences or if you had the feeling even that you were an intuitive or insightful child and how that might have played out for you.
No, and I never did, but I will tell you that I have a very poor memory, and so I write a lot of stuff down and things. So I always tease that I'm like I asked my mom, I'm like, did you drink when you were pregnant with me, because I can't remember crap. But she said yes. We didn't know it was wrong at the time, but so I don't have a lot of childhood memories. Like, and literally, I have really worked very hard to get rid of the memories I've had anytime before 20, because at 20, I started a new life when I got married, and I literally wanted to leave everything that was before that behind. So I don't really revisit that piece hardly ever.
Oh, wow.
Hardly ever.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
It seems to be this very natural, innate kind of skill that you have that you were able to channel it into this profession that, people might think has nothing to do with intuition or instinct, but it clearly does. You have to be able to read people and tune into them. And that's a powerful skill to have. Yeah.
And I do think though that it's been developed over the last 35, 36 years, right? That I have developed that. I honestly don't believe I brought it with me before then.
Wow, wow.
But
Interesting. Well, then,
I've been doing work on myself, personal development work, for the last 40 years. So I work really hard on my development, and which includes all this other stuff, the awareness and intuition and things like that. I just feel like I developed that. I don't think I had it. I think I developed it.
Interesting, interesting. Because I mean, there are different schools of thought with that as well, right? Some people say that we're born with these natural abilities and we just have to uncover them. Other people say that we have to teach ourselves to develop them. So I think it could be both, either or, all of the above. But thank you, Jean. That's fascinating. And I'm really looking forward to hearing your presentation. Yeah,
Thank
I've just heard such wonderful things about you and about your work and the effectiveness of your work from Deb. So yeah, really looking forward to that.
Well, I am bringing my husband back on Saturday because he is so excited about the CE5.
Oh,
So
wow.
and we had just recently started talking about this, and watched a couple documentaries and things. And when I asked him, I said, Deb's doing this, and I didn't really put it all together what this was until a couple weeks ago. And um, he said, yeah, I want to go.
That's fantastic. That's
Yeah,
fantastic. Yes, sometimes we end up corrupting the people around us and dragging them in with us, right, into this wonderful field.
exactly.
So
Can I make a
Deb,
comment on
actually,
that?
maybe, oh, sorry, Grant, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment on the CE5 because Marcel and Kim aren't here. But one of the things that you're going to see is a CE6, which
Oh.
is they're bringing radios. Now, you may not have seen this, but Marcel is part of a group where it was developed by a guy who is an expert on shortwave radio his whole life. He's been fascinated sending signals off the moon and stuff. And they developed this situation where they have these small handheld whatever it is, small walkie-talkies that they send out signals and they get signals back. So they'll have all the radios on the same frequency and half the radios will start to chatter and they'll send out a message and then suddenly these radios will start going. So not only will you see Jeff taking photos of the sky and stuff appearing on the camera, you're also going to see these radios that Marcel and Kim are going to bring along that you'll actually see interactions with these radios going off. It'll be not just a sky watch, it's going to be much more complex than that.
Oh my God, he's going to be thrilled.
Yeah, you'll be buying radios. You'll be buying one of these radios. They actually have these radios around the world, and people are sending signals and getting back signals, and now they're even into starting to learn of trying to get the message, what the signal is coming back, because the signal will come back across the radio, to put it through some sort of processor to see what is the other side saying. It's fascinating stuff. It's very new. It's only maybe the last year. These guys have come forward with this technology. I've known about it for a couple of years, that they were secretly working on this, but this will be at this conference. I think the first conference that they've had these radios at, so it'll be very interesting.
Is it something that he can buy now?
Yep, yep. And they'll give him the frequency. He can be part of this little group. There's people around the world who sort of get linked into this group, and they told what frequencies, and they sort of exchange stories about radios going off and messages people are getting and stuff like that. And they call it a CE6. It's like a direct interaction with these radios. And it's, if you look at the material they've got, it's as fascinating as anything you've ever seen. It's really, really.
What kind of radio is it? Like what?
It's a small 8-watt radio that you can buy at Best Buy or some of these places, and they have a certain frequency that they broadcast on. And we can actually put a link in, because we did an interview with them, and they did a 1-hour documentary where he describes, this guy out of California that invented this whole system, does a 1-hour documentary where he describes how he discovered this, how these radios started to go off, and he started to send messages and get messages back, and then other people got radios and they started these groups and stuff like that. So it's moved to a different, it's almost like everything else. It's sort of like we're gradually learning, the veil is thinning, and more people are getting ideas. And I think one of the things we've got to remember is that whatever the phenomena we're dealing with is, it is talking to us. It's not that we're figuring this thing out, we're so smart. They are helping us. They're giving people ideas and giving people missions. And I think you always got to remember, there's two sides to this disclosure thing. As the veil thins, the other side steps in more and more to help the people that will be at this conference to get their message out.
Very cool.
I'd like to add too, because two of our speakers aren't here, Marcel and Kim, they are bringing the CE5 experience. They are two of Dr. Stephen Greer's top CE5 facilitators, been all over the world. And Dr. Stephen Greer is the person who formulated the CE5 experience. And what is it? Well, you've heard of Close Encounters of the Third Kind. We all saw that movie. But Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, CE5, is when you initiate the conversation with the beings in the craft or whatever. So what we do is we go out into the field. If you're local, bring a chaise lounge. It'll be much more comfortable for you. We're going to go out again. Remember, we're in the middle of nowhere. Okay. And it's black. And we're going to go out into the field, and Kim and Marcel have lasers that are not the kind that you'll get arrested for shining into a plane. These are lasers that go further, much further than that. And you know, when you're sitting and watching the night sky at night and you see all those beautiful stars, they're not all stars. And if you shine a laser at them, they just might blink back at you. Sometimes they start moving in groups. Sometimes they come in closer. Sometimes they land nearby. Marcel has a picture of an actual being that came and joined the group. So, I mean, I'm not making any promises. It may rain. We don't know. But what I'm saying is that this CE5 experience, they're going to have a 2-hour talk on Saturday to explain what the experience is and talk about the things that they've accomplished and done. And then we're going to go out and give it a try late that night from 9 to 11. So I do want to bring that up.
Thank you, Deb.
Because,
actually,
yeah.
Could you clarify, just for the audience, just a very succinct clarification of what the difference is between CE5 and CE6, because I think that's important. Grant spoke about the CE6, you've spoken about the CE5, but just to make it very clear for the audience, what is the difference between the two?
So CE6 is really interesting. Basically, Jimmy Blanchette, this guy from Canada who now lives in LA, he's a radio monster. He knows everything about radios. He has a setup in his backyard that make you fall over. But what he does is he basically creates a message in a software program that changes that message. It's actually, like a graphic, changes that message into the squawks on a radio, and they send those sounds out, and then anything that comes back, we'll hear the squawks on the radio on our end. Now we won't have the software set up to translate it on the spot or anything like that. They have so many jillions of messages now. I don't know how they're ever going to translate them all. It's kind of overwhelming. But one nice thing that is really exciting for me is Marcel Vidovic, who is one of our CE5 presenters on Saturday. He is good friends with Jimmy Blanchette, and he and Jimmy have conspired to send a message out for our group to say, come on, participate in our CE5. We're going to be out there. We're going to be looking for you.
That is fantastic.
And I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled that they thought of us and that they thought that this was a worthy thing to do, because again, it's the crossing the lines that we artificially draw between us.
Yes.
And that's what opens our minds. So
that
I'm
is
excited.
wonderful. That is wonderful.
One more little comment I can make. And that is, I think if Marcel I don't know if he's going to be showing his photographs that he's taken, because he's been around the world.
Yes, he's showing photographs.
He has the one night where they had 64 flashes in one night. And he has the picture of the being, but just to give you a heads up, Jeff in Chicago also has a picture of a being that he got that he will show as well.
Yes, I'm so excited, but don't show it today.
Several.
I think Jeff is getting set up right now to share his screen, and I'm going to give Jeff permission to share his screen. Jeff, that should show up now on your toolbar at the bottom of your screen. Wonderful, thank you.
Cool. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Can
you enlarge, Jeff? Can you enlarge just that one? Yes, perfect, thank you.
Yeah. So this is actually from a video that I took. So I have an Arlo security camera that shoots in infrared that I have in my backyard along the fence, and it aims straight up at the sky. And so what I try and get images indoors, outdoors, and just in different ways, just to confirm what I'm seeing. And you can prove things are this or that, and disprove other things that way. But these were in infrared, and I'll actually show the video as well of these. Here's a closer shot. One.
You know what, Jeff? I feel like that last shot that you just showed, Mike McClelland might like to see that, because it somewhat resembles an owl. That's what it looks like to me.
Oh, yeah? Yeah.
Mike McClelland, the owl guy.
Oh,
yeah, really
yeah.
Like that. Yeah, I might send it to him with your permission.
Oh, yeah, okay. Totally. Now I'll show the video of this here. All right. So these lines you're seeing are power lines, by the way, that are moving up and down.
I saw some. Oh, wow. Oh.
Wow. So Jeff, where is this being taken? Is this outdoors in your backyard? That's amazing.
Yep. Yeah, it's just in the backyard here in Chicago, facing up at the sky.
I would like to mention that if you've never been in anybody's backyard in Chicago, they're really small.
Yeah.
And Jeff gets incredible pictures.
Wow. Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah. And then I'll show a couple others that are from that same camera. on.
Thank you, Jeff. Was there anything else you wanted to show us? Right, I think you're pulling something up. Your sound went out for me.
Oh yeah, sorry. Let's see.
Thank you.
Sorry, I got to move this bar around the Zoom link bar. Oh, you mentioned ferries earlier, so I wanted to pull up this one. So in this one, you can sort of see it. It comes in and lands right here, and then flies off.
I have one almost just like that.
Oh my
Oh
gosh.
yeah,
Yeah.
something in the background flying here too.
Oh my gosh. That is
It
so
sort of sits
cool.
there.
Wow. That's
But
crazy.
that same one I've gotten in multiple. I've gotten that one in my room as well, in the bedroom.
Thank
Which
you.
I'll be showing that video at the event. But
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
save the juicy stuff for the
Yeah.
for the paying folks, right? But I know that you've got a lot online as well, Jeff, and you've done lots of interviews and stuff like that. So there is stuff out there, but
Yeah, there's nothing actually online really, just as of yet. But I'm gonna after the event, I'm putting up a website where I'll have everything. So I kind of wanted to show it to the people at the event first.
Thank you.
And then
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we're
course.
almost at the end, guys. We've got maybe like 10 minutes left. And so I just want to give everyone open forum. You know, if there's anybody who'd like to speak to anything we've touched on today. Otherwise, I think we'll bring it back to Deb and ask her to just summarize anything she might like to say to the audience before we close. But would anybody like to, you know, offer any last thoughts, you know, what your philosophy is about all of this? What you would, you know, any message that you'd like to give the audience, anything that you think is especially important for our general human progress and development. This is an opportunity to do that, because lots of people will be listening to and watching this who will not actually be going to the event. So by all means, use the opportunity now to share what you'd like to share.
I think Deb should talk about where the event is, when the event is, and how to get there, and where it is from Chicago and this sort of stuff, because we're talking about this wonderful place, but be a little more specific about when and where.
Absolutely. Thanks, Grant. So we are meeting August 19th. It's a Thursday. Registration actually starts at 1 in the afternoon. And we'll go Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday will be our goodbye breakfast. And everybody's invited to come. The breakfast is only for the people in the inn, but we can still use the grounds to say goodbye one last time. But what I want to go back to is, first of all, you can find all the information you're looking for at internalwilderness.com and look for the drop down menu that says Worldwide Metaphysical Tribe, and everything you need is there. Links to tickets on just about every page, information about how this operates. We are starting Thursday by going out to dinner and then watching a movie that's going to set the stage. I'm pretty sure none of you have seen this one, so I'm very excited to show it. Also, Friday and Saturday are going to be full days of presenters, downtime, little live music. It's just going to be very low key. And then Saturday is when all of our headliners are speaking. So that'll be Jeff Lorkey in the morning, and our two missing presenters today, Marcel and Kim, about CE5. They will do the afternoon, and then Grant will do the evening, and then we will go out in the field and do CE5 that night. And that's a separate ticket. You can buy that ticket alone and not come to the whole 4-day event, because a lot of people don't have 4 days to devote. But if you're going to come to the Midwest for anything, you want to come to this, because who knows if anything like this will ever happen again. This is a unique moment in time. And so the Location of the event is approximately 1.5 to 2 hours west of Chicago, depending on where you are. And plenty of parking. Definitely bring a friend because you're going to need somebody to talk to when this is over. And yeah, this is the year to come.
Wonderful, wonderful. And when are Tara and Jean going to be speaking so people know the dates and times as well?
So Jean is our opening speaker on Friday, and she will be followed by Linda, and then Linda will be followed by Tara.
Sorry about that. I thought Linda was happening on Saturday. Okay.
No.
So thank you very much. So Jean, Linda, and Tara on the Friday, and Saturday is Jeff, and then Kim and Marcel, and then Grant, and then the CE5 is Saturday night. Is that right?
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, thank you, Deb. Is there any other information you'd like to pass on?
I would like to say that our neighborhood is the UFO hotspot, so I'm expecting something to happen.
I'm certainly setting my hopes for that as well. Certainly setting my hopes for that. So again, last chance for anybody to speak if you'd like to. Otherwise, we're just going to say thank you so much for being here. Would anyone like to say anything? Any last words? All right. Okay. Everybody's very humble.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Nothing to say. But thank you all so much sincerely for being here. Extra special thanks to Deb for just being the amazing octopus. I don't know how you do it, seriously, every year, especially this year, arranging this, under COVID. Don't forget to refrigerate the gift bags. It says on the box, must be refrigerated. Don't forget, I just wanted to say that. But seriously, so looking forward to being with you all in the same physical space, in that collective energy, with all this positivity and, amazing stuff to offer this audience. And I also want to say an extra special thank you to Grant, because I would not be doing any of this if it was not for him. And this is my happy place. So thank you, everyone, for being here and sharing your knowledge and experience. You've given us a lot to look forward to. And Deb, I think your audience is going to be really excited. I'm already so excited. We've been saying this for weeks. We're so excited.
Me too.
Yes. So thank you, everyone, for being here. Much gratitude, and see you very soon. Well, in 3.5 weeks, I think. Can't wait. All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you.